If I may, I'll just go ahead and jump right in, Chairman. Hello there. Is this Dr. Halbert?
Hi. Sorry about my delay. I'm here.
Oh, no worries. We were just about to get started, so you're on time. All right. All right. So this is the regular scheduled meeting of the Tennessee Athletic Commission. If I may, let me go ahead and take a roll. Steve Hanna?
Here.
Donald Wynn?
Here.
Christy Halbert?
Here.
Patrick Wren?
Here.
All right, Chairman, we do have quorum, so we'll begin with the meeting. Let me read the notice of meeting. Notice of March 14th, 2019 meeting of the Athletic Commission was posted to the website on March 1st, 2019. Anytime we do a teleconference, we have to read the statement of necessity. And then once we approve that statement of necessity, we have to approve every action item with a roll call vote, okay? So let me just, without further ado, I'll jump in and read that one. According to TCA 844-108B2, if a physical quorum is not present at the location of a meeting of a governing body, the governing body must file such determination of necessity, including the recitation of the facts and circumstances on which it was based, with the Office of Secretary of State no later than 2 working days after the meeting. Furthermore, TCA 844-108A3 defines necessity as matters to be considered by the governing body at the meeting require timely action by that body, that physical presence by a quorum of the members is not practical within the period of time requiring action, and that participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. This is the regular scheduled meeting for the Tennessee Athletic Commission. The purpose of today's meeting with the members attending by teleconference is to discuss the agenda as noticed on the website earlier. With that being said, if someone would make a motion to accept that statement of necessity, it would be appreciated. Do we have a motion in that regard?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Dr. Halbert. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Yeah. Second.
All right, Steve Hanna seconds. Now, so in that case, we'll do a, thank you, sir. We'll do a roll call vote then. Steve Hanna?
Aye.
Donald Wynn?
Aye.
Christy Halbert?
Aye.
Patrick Wren?
Aye.
Great, thank you. It's so noted. Now for the agenda. I trust that you had an opportunity to look at that. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda, or if there's any variations in the agenda, that'll be fine as well?
I'll make that motion, Steve Hanna.
Do we have a second?
Patrick Wren, second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Mr. Hanna. We have a second from Mr. Wren. Now for the roll call vote. Steve Hanna?
Aye.
Donald Wynn?
Aye.
Christy Halbert?
Aye.
Patrick Wren?
Aye.
Thank you. That's been approved then. We'll move to the December minutes. Is there any comments or edits or anything in that regard? Any discussion? Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move we accept the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Wren. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Steve Hanna.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion by Commissioner Wren, and we have a second by Commissioner Hanna. For roll call vote, Steve Hanna?
Aye.
For Donald Wynn?
Aye.
Christy Halbert?
Aye.
And Patrick Wren?
Aye.
Thank you. We're moving right along. We got that approved. For informational purposes, we'll just go over the budget real quick. I'm gonna just go ahead and hit the highlights, okay? We won't deep dive, and of course, if there's any questions that you may have, you're welcome to pose those, and I'll do my best to answer that. But from what I sent earlier, we're just going to go over the fiscal year's prior budget, big picture, and then we'll drill down small picture where we're trending this fiscal year. The major thing that you'll want to note on the budget on the first page is that fiscal year 15 and 16, we had a net revenue of $111,000. Well, that was fiscal year 15 and 16. Fiscal year 16 and 17, we had a net revenue of $152,000. And then fiscal year 17 to 18, we had net revenue of $48,000. Now, that's a big difference. So let me explain where that came from. The fiscal year 15 and 16, we had Bellator. And so the receipts from that that were garnered from that brought us to the 111 mark. The year after that, we had UFC. And then so the receipts, the gross receipts and broadcasting from that got us to 152. So you can see why we these events that come to Tennessee are so important to the fiscal health of the budget. And last year we didn't have a big event, so that's why we hit at 48,000. But this year we do. We have UFC coming to Bridgestone, as you know, on the 23rd, and looking forward to a good event there. So I think that'll really help us with the 2-year sunset hearing that'll be coming up here shortly, and also our fiscal solvency. So we're looking forward to that. This next page is our share of the administrative cost backs. Basically, rent, the things, investigations, legal expenses that all the programs share. There's some things that are itemized specifically to departments. Some things are based on that are something that we all share, but then we don't want to disproportionately allocate those expenses. So the administrative cost backs percentage for this department is 1%. Basically, based on our size of licensee pool and our complaints, it was determined that out of $7.5 million roughly, we only for last year had expenses, or looks like administrative cost backs of about $71,000. So we have less than 1% of the total share. Whereas if you were to look at Cosmo and Barber, you're looking at like 16-17% because they have like 60-some thousand licensees. So I think that helps kind of expound what the administrative cost backs portion is. For our regular expenses, if you look on page 3, this is just this fiscal year. I'm going to hit some of the high points there. If you go down to other expenses, there was a spike, a $2,000 spike in expenses for August. That was due to travel and other reallocations to correct that line item, just travel line item. Some of that was reallocated, so that's the spike there. If you go down further and hit technology, there was a spike in expenses for September and October. That was due to an increase in total administrative cost backs for period 4 expenses for all the programs, largely due to a micropact or vendor expenses due to system enhancements. Basically, the online system that we use, we had a vendor do some enhancements, and then after that was shared across the programs, that was what was allocated to Athletic Commission. So, legal cost backs, you saw a spike in September. That was a moderate spike. It's really due to just an uptick in complaints that we had for that period. And then on the last page, page 4, all those expenses at the very bottom, those are the administrative cost backs that are shared across the board, our portion of that. So that's that in a nutshell, kind of a quick drive-by. If there's any further questions, I'll entertain those now. If not, of course, you can always reach me if those were to arise. So we don't have to vote on this one. That was just for you and for your own information. Is there any questions, comments?
Mr. Kopchak, do we have any other big venues besides the UFC that's public knowledge?
No, sir. Not on the horizon. M1 Global was kind of flirting with the idea at one point in time, but they're just, so that could develop, but we're not certain. Nothing definitive, not yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Has the commission been contacted by the IBF? I ask because, as you all know, Caleb Plant, Tennessee native, won a couple of months ago the IBF title, and there's some discussion. I hear through the grapevine that there's some discussion about him doing a title defense in Tennessee, possibly as early as this year. Has the commission been contacted regarding that?
Not yet. But that would be outstanding. We would love to host that, and that would be a great venue for not just for the state of Tennessee, but for this young man too, being homegrown. Yeah. So, but yeah, anything we hear about that, of course, I'll bring to the commission as that develops. But right now, nothing yet. But UFC will be of great assistance to our budget this year, given where I saw we were trending. So I think we're gonna reach fiscal solvency again, and recoup some of that loss from last year. So that's looking good.
Timing is good.
Yes, sir. It sure was. All right. That was the budget then. If we have one more actionable item requiring a vote, and that's Robert Rules. It's just a procedural item. Basically, what we were doing this morning is Robert's Rules. You're already aware of that. We use that. All the other boards use that as well. But each year, we just have to approve that. Unless someone else has another procedural platform that they'd like to use to conduct our business, we'll just continue using Robert's Rules. But I'll just need authority from the board to do that. Unless there's an alternative, I'll accept a motion to approve that.
Steve Hanna will make a motion to continue using the Robert's Rules of Order.
All right, great. Do we have a second in that regard?
Christy Halbert will second.
All right, great. And unless there's any further discussion, I'll go down the roll call then. Steve Hanna?
Aye.
Donald Wynn,
Aye.
Christy Halbert,
Aye.
Patrick Wren.
Aye.
All right, thank you so much. That was all of our actionable pieces. Unless something develops in new business, we'll move to the legislative updates.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Pam Spicer. I wanted to take a moment just to update you all on where the rules stand and the process that we go through on rulemaking in case some of you have questions about the length of time that has expired. As you all know, in December, Sarah Page went over 2 sets of rules with you all. Those were the hybrid mat, vinyl mat rules, and the female boxing rules. You all approved those rules, and those rules are currently in the process of being approved by the department. And then as far as the process, they will go to the Attorney General for review. They will then come back to the department for further review. They then will go to the governor's office for review. So there is about a 20-step process whereby several approvals are needed before they get to the final stage. So I just wanted to update you all on the process in general for those 2 sets of rules because they're early in the process. Does anybody have any questions on those 2 sets of rules?
None here.
There are also 2 other sets of rules that were further along in the process, but I need to make you all aware of Governor Lee's Executive Order Number 5. This went into effect in February of this year, and he has basically placed a moratorium on the filing of any rules with the Secretary of State's office until May 2nd, 2019. So you all have 2 sets of rules that will be affected by this moratorium because those rules have gone through the process, have been approved by everyone, but we cannot file them with the Secretary of State's office yet. And those are the unified rules and the amateur deregulation rules, which you all had approved previously before I was assigned to this commission. Does anybody have any questions about those 2 sets of rules? And again, those have been approved. We're just waiting on the moratorium to expire.
No questions here.
Okay. Unless there's any other questions, that's all we had on the agenda. Is there any new business that anyone would like to bring up or discuss? Okay, I'll take your silence then as an indicator. And in that regard, if somebody would like to make a motion to adjourn, we'll entertain that.
So moved.
Is that Hannah?
Yes, sir.
All right, Steve Hannah made a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second to adjourn?
Right here, Patrick.
All right. Thank you, sir. In that regard, we'll go down the roll, and then we'll wrap this up. Steve Hannah?
Aye.
Donald Wynn?
Aye.
Christy Halbert?
Aye.
Patrick Wren? We are so moved that we're accepted. It is adjourned.
Thanks for everybody's attendance. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Glenn?
Yes, sir.
Glenn,
Yes, sir. I'm here.
we had another point we were talking about. What was it that you wanted me to? The thing about the fights on the 23rd.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let me call you right back. I'm gonna go and close this video down, and then I'll call you right back.
All right, man.
All right. It sounds good. Bye-bye.